All right, and we live, fellas. What's going on, y'all? Thank y'all for joining us for another episode of the Rock Rundown. This time we got a very special guest with us. Real down to earth individual, knowledgeable, humble, real go getter, man. It's a pleasure to announce this guest of ours. Jamar, what it do, bro?
What's going on, guys?
What's
Happy
going
to
on?
be here.
All right, man. What's going on with y'all, man? What's up, Car Clips?
What's the deal? What's the deal, man? Hey, man, not much. Hanging in on this little fine Monday. Getting it
Okay,
in.
okay. Well, definitely appreciate you for joining us, Jamar. Like I said, man, in this one, we want to lean heavily on your expertise when it comes to real estate. I'm not that big of a real estate guy. I'm more of a um, Bitcoin guy. That's my favorite type of property to own. So I was just hoping that maybe you could bring a little bit more clarity to the people and
But man,
make the case for property in today's market, man. Why should anybody be looking to buy a house in this market?
man, that's a very, very good question. And it's a good question for a different reason than you might expect. It's a good question because that's a question that a lot of people ask themselves, and that's a lot of people ask other people. And my answer to that is firstly, what market? What market is it that you're talking about that's different than another market that you would have bought in or that you would not have bought in? So that's number one. You have to realize that the market is you and whatever you're ready. The best time to buy a house is when you're ready to buy a house. So a lot of people bring up interest rates and things like that. But you also have to realize that 30, 40 years ago, or people who got these old mortgages, their mortgage rates were 13%, 14%. And currently we're looking around 6 to 8, depending on yourself, your credit, your loan. So you have to ask yourself, well, is that better or worse than now? Would you rather say, hey, I had a 13% and now I have a 6%, or just rather wait and say, oh, well, I'll wait until maybe it'll be lower, but more than likely it'll be higher, you know?
Hmm. Okay. So so right now, how do you think interest rates more or less affects people's decisions to buy a home? We don't know what Jerome Powell's latest decision is going to be at any given moment. Um so what is your take on how interest rates impacts the market? What do you see in real time?
So in real time, I see more fear than anything. So people have this ability to create the most negative experience for themselves, even if it's something that they really want. And when people bring up interest rates, I always bring up rent. If you're renting right now, what do you think your interest rate is? It's 100%. You have 100% interest rate on rent, and you shouldn't complain. However, I also deal with a lot of first-time home buyers, and they're my favorite to deal with specifically because of questions like this. What about the interest rate? Or I saw this on the news, or houses are going to crash. And I'm able to actually step into their lives and give them realistically the firsthand knowledge that they haven't been receiving. When I say, no, this is not what's going on. This is actually what's going on. And this is what you can do in order to afford this home that you really want.
Hmm.
Okay, okay. So I think you mentioned with the interest rates, you said when you're paying rent, you're paying pretty much 100% interest rates. Could you just add a little bit more like juice to that? Like basically, are you saying that people aren't you're that's money that you're essentially not ever getting back? So it's like 100% interest, or like what do you
Yeah,
mean?
that's exactly what it is. So what some people fail to realize is that the person who you're renting your house from, they have a mortgage. Their mortgage rate may be, 6, 7, 8, 9%, whatever it is, and you're paying to stay in that person's house. You're paying off their mortgage, the mortgage that you could have gotten for yourself for 13 or for 6 to 8% currently. You could have got that paid less on your rent and still had a house that you can have and call your own. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is that, the interest rates are really the heart of the deal, when realistically it's not. Your interest rate could be say for instance, and I'm saying this on the high end, your interest rate could be 8%, and it could still be lower than what you're paying for rent currently. So you have to really take a step back sometimes in order to really figure out which way and which direction you want to take in your home buying journey.
So, yeah, so I got a question. So, when it comes to, let's say buying and renting a home, are you saying it's smarter to just, go ahead and save your money and go ahead and buy a house versus rent a house? Due to that particular statement you just made about the, 100%, what I'm saying, so the interest rate and like things like that. It's just smarter to just, yeah, like I said, like save up your money and just buy a home versus renting.
So I would say this: it's 100% an individual choice, and I give you that answer specifically because one person might have somewhere to go and say, "Hey, I can go here for another year and save up all my money, have my credit good, and then go get me a house and have an amazing mortgage rate that they're happy to pay with." And then there may also be another person who says, "Well, I really don't have the option to buy right now, and I really don't have the extra funds to save up to buy right now." So it specifically deals on your circumstance. Are you a better renter right now, or do you have the leeway to actually go buy? Now,
Mm.
one thing that I would say to people is that they can do right now is still, even if you're not ready, contact a realtor, contact a loan officer, see what you have to do, what kind of buying power you do have. Because even if the first home might not be your forever home, you still might be able to afford a home, and you're absolutely able to build into that home, fix that house up, get some equity. And it's kind of a snowball effect in the most positive way after that.
So yeah, but so if I'm a first time buyer, right? Like yeah, like what are just some of the easier steps to take to go about buying a house? In your opinion.
So what I would say is this: again, you definitely want to reach out to a realtor first and foremost. You want to reach out to a loan officer first and foremost. And this is just strictly because you lack the education. As a
Right.
first time home buyer, you lack the education. If your parents bought a house, it's not the same as now. Your grandparents, it's not the same as now. So you really want a professional who's in the now to tell you what's going on now. And another really big thing on that is you wouldn't want to get a doctor after you're sick, right? You want a doctor before you're sick. So when you are sick, you can say, "Hey, I have a doctor. He knows what to do already." Right? It's the same way with real estate. You want to have a realtor or a loan officer that you can trust in your pocket already. That way, when you're ready to buy a house, you say, "No, I've gotten everything taken care of right now. I know the steps. I know what I need to do next."
Okay.
Mm,
That
okay.
makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay. So right now, like what are some pretty much what are some rules of or roles of virtual tours today? Because during the pandemic, obviously it messed up a lot of like enterprise, how the way we were traditionally used to doing stuff. And I think you got your license post pandemic. What have you seen as far as how technology has impacted what you do? And again, like the role of virtual tours.
So it's actually very uh, I want to say very close, but I'm glad you brought that up because I've actually had a virtual tour not too long ago. And virtual tours are really good for two reasons. The first reason is because if you're out of town or something, you still need that virtual tour. You still need to say, "Hey," and you have to have a trusted agent to be like, "Can you show me this house virtually so that we can able to see it?" And it's a big difference between seeing it in person and seeing it virtually.
Big difference.
However, and then there's also people who just really can't make it. So currently, I would say virtual tours aren't as prevalent as they were during the pandemic, of course, because people are able to come out and see it and they want that experience of coming out and seeing a home. Now, if you actually don't have the choice to come out and see it or you don't have the option, then virtual tours are still very, very impactful so that the person can at least get a kind of a feel for the home that they're seeing.
Hmm. That makes sense, but that's a whole like different type of experience. And like that's one thing that like just when it comes to like branding and things like that for companies and for any service or good is like it's all about the experience. And so I do feel like that the in person experience is just a little bit different than the virtual experience for sure. Am I right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And I do want to since we on the topic of like technology, I want to ask you like how do you see the role of AI changing or impacting what you do, either for better or for worse?
Um, so I'm not gonna say biased, but I'm a little torn on AI so far because in one instance, AI does a lot of things that it saves you a lot of time. I'll keep it that way. So AI can definitely save you a lot of time in the aspect of we, as a realtor, I have to make a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails. I have to get a lot of scripting done. I have to do a lot of very repetitive things that AI can kind of break down for me and make it more streamlined, which saves me more time so that my biggest focus is on my clients and is creating that tailor-made experience for them. Now, the other thing with AI is people have this fear that AI is going to, steal your ability to do things as a human. When realistically, AI is a tool, and the way that you use it is greatly going to be different than somebody else who uses it. So you can either make your own downfall with AI, or you can make AI your partner, your tool, your assistant. You know,
Mhm.
so I think the role of AI, it heavily depends on its user. Some people they just don't want to implement it at all, which is fine. That's your thing. You run your business how you need to run it. And then there's other people who say, you know what, I'm going to step up to this challenge. I'm going to use this to take care of all of these other things that I just did not have the time for.
How have you been utilizing it personally?
So personally, I use AI for a lot of my again I have a lot of scripts that I have, so I sometimes you just don't have the right words, or it just doesn't seem right to you, and you read it from a different perspective and you're like, okay, this is a lot better. Or if I have to make um, something in my contracts, we have to do different addendums to make things more legal, or not more legal, to keep things legal and to make things as we want to make things as precise as possible. There we are. So no confusion. So I would use AI for some of that too, just to make sure that one, my client is fully protected, and two, that everything makes sense to every party. Because I believe that when doing business, it has to be mutual from both sides. Both sides should understand 100%. We don't need anything uh, confusing. So we
Mhm.
kind of just go from there. That's really my biggest way for AI. And the other biggest way I use it is for some of my leads. So I need to use AI to create me lead templates so that I'm able to reach more people. And then after I reach more people with those templates, I also come back in and then I can provide that personal experience that that you're really staying with me for.
Mm.
Okay. What about you, Kari? Have you, because you wear multiple hats in your everyday career. So like, how have you been able to utilize AI, if at all, for what you do and your process in general?
Just using AI man for like different, like tips and and scripts and things like that. Like for example, like it's like like a couple different things that I need help with starting. Like for example, how to start a mentorship program. And so I use AI to pretty much give me a quick 1, 2, 3 step on how getting that started. You know what I'm saying? And so um, sometimes Google, it'll send you all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Like this link here, the link there. But with the AI software that they have now, you can ask it one specific question, and then it'll just give you a specific answer on that particular topic that you just asked it. So that's mainly how I've been using it as a lately, and like we're doing some of the things that I do as far as wearing the different hats. Like I just ask it different questions about how to get started with certain things, and they give me a nice big rundown of like how to get started with things. Um, yeah, but what about yourself?
I mean, well, I consider myself a technology maximalist, because I'm not one of those people who fear the internet or innovation. Um, when I was more on the religious side, though, I did used to think like technology was really just here to destroy us. But now I don't separate it from mankind anymore. I feel like it's one with mankind. I remember a guy at the gym telling me I was crazy for thinking this. He was like super, super religious, but he like, you know, this stuff is made by the devil. And I'm like, what if God gave us the mental faculties to be able to create it? Like, you found out the devil made cell phones. You're no longer using your cell phone no more to call your mom who lives in a whole different country. Of course you are. Um, so when it comes to technology, I don't fear what the implications are. I think humans will do what we've done since the beginning of time: adapt. Get over it. Don't don't just stray from your nature as a human being. Like, you know, our superpower is never getting too comfortable. Because if we do, that means death, and that's why we've been able to outlast every other species we've encountered thus far, because of our ability to adapt. So I don't think AI is any different. It is going to change how we live our lives, our productivity levels. We're millennials, so it's going to threaten our parents' livelihoods, as their skills from the 80s and the 90s kind of die out. We had dads who worked in plants, truckers, um, engineers, people whose skill sets is no longer needed now. The market is kind of shifting, and our parents is relying on us a lot more, to take care of them. We're experiencing that personally. And like, I know a guy who had been taking care of his dad for a couple of years, and he was doing it without a traditional 9 to 5. He was literally just grinding it up off DoorDash, making money, paying his bills, and taking care of his dad. While his dad kind of figure out where he belongs in the marketplace. So
Yeah, and another thing too, man, is I feel like it's very important nowadays, especially, bro, because with the technology that we have now, is it's making everything move so fast, and like everything is moving fast, and everything's constantly changing. So with that being said, I feel like it's very important to, like we said, adapt, and also just get hip with what's going on, man, because you don't want to get left behind, because the world is gonna still be moving no matter if you want to stay stagnant, with your business or not. It's like it's gonna still keep changing, still keep evolving, and so you want to figure out how you can like pretty much just like implement the newer technology into some of the stuff that you're doing nowadays, man, because everything is pretty much using it. So I thought that's very important, man, to basically to like really adapt to what's it's changing now.
hmm for sure. Another question for you, Jamar. Because when I first met you, man, I was really intrigued by your mindset and your willingness to learn overall. I just saw the way you value information, and people advertise who they are by the type of questions that they ask, and I was really impressed by the questions that you asked. So as an entrepreneur yourself, I just want to ask you, like, what are some of the pros and cons that you see, like, in today's economy, like, of being an entrepreneur?
Oh man, I think that's something all three of us can go on all day about, right?
Right.
It's so many of them, man. It's so many of them. Uh, so let's start off with the cons, man, because I don't think enough people give enough credit to the cons. So one huge con is the money, right? If you don't treat your business like a business and seriously like a business, it's not a business. Okay, it's gonna fail, and you're gonna be heartbroken. And it takes a lot of mental stillness to be like, you know what, this isn't the end. This isn't the end unless I make it the end. So a big con for me is definitely one: if you don't have the clientele, then you have to be okay with being broke for a while. All right, it's a part of entrepreneurship. Nobody gets it the first day. You have to treat it like it's a newborn child, and you wouldn't expect a newborn child to do a cartwheel across the floor. You say, no, I have to teach you this, and I have to continuously show you every single day so that you can grow in order to be what I want you to be. So that's one big con. You might have a giant month. You might have a 10K month. The next 3 months you have $0. So you have to have that mental fortitude to say, okay, this isn't the end. I have to keep going with that. Another con, and this is kind of a optional con, because if you really know yourself, then it's not so much so bad. But if you don't know yourself before you become an entrepreneur, you will get to know yourself. You will get to know your darkest, deepest moments. You will get to know your breaking points. You will get to know how much you can endure. You will get to know who the people you can count on are. You will get to know, pretty much everything about yourself and how far you can go. Now, if you know yourself and you say, hey, and you're honest with yourself, that process gets a whole lot easier. But if you're not honest with yourself, that can truly break a person. So I've definitely seen that with a lot of friends that I have, and I've definitely felt those moments within my life. And I say, you know what? I know where I came from and the reason I started, and that's what keeps me going.
Hmm.
Um, Now with the pros, because of course there are a lot of pros. One of the pros is you've become your own boss. Be your own boss. That is truly a sign of entrepreneurship, and it has a different meaning for me now than it did before I started, because people need to understand the weight that you give yourself when you tell yourself to be your own boss. Who's going to wake you up in the morning? It has to be you. Who's going to make sure you get those client calls? It has to be you. Who's going to be your advertiser? It has to be you. So you really put all of the load that someone else was helping you with on yourself. And that still is a pro to me, because you have your time now. What you do with that time is highly dependent, but you have to focus and strap yourself in. But you have the time to have that freedom that we all said that we would get when we were little. I want to be able to wake up and go to, Florida whenever I want. As an entrepreneur, if you do follow the right steps, you can. I want to be able to grow up and provide for my family. If you do the right steps and set your business up the right way, you can employ your family. Now you all can work together, or you can help your family when they're in need. We all say that we want these things, and entrepreneurship will really give you those things as long as you, again, know yourself and you're dedicated to your craft.
I agree with that 100%. Definitely. Definitely, man. Because that's one thing about being an entrepreneur, man, is like you said, you do have the freedom of your time, but now by you having that freedom, are you gonna fuck it off, or are you gonna lock in and really dedicate most of that time to your business and like tell like what you're working on? You know what I'm saying? And so that's where like a lot of the people who don't, or like not in like the entrepreneurial field, they don't get that particular part, because when you're working a 9 to 5, like now that you went to work for the day, now I want to go fuck off the rest of the time that I have for the day because I've been working all day. But as an entrepreneur, it's more so like now that you get done working on what you work, it's still like now I needed to dedicate this extra time on the back end of the business now. You know what I'm saying as well, and so I feel like being an entrepreneur, you have to really love what you do in order to fall in love with that process as far as still working on what you're working on, and like for like a guy like me, I actually enjoy, the process of still working on what I need to work on because I feel in love with what I'm working on, if that makes sense. And so a lot of people they don't understand that, I'm not gonna have a lot of time to really like dedicate towards anything that don't have to do with my business or like don't have to do with networking or something that's gonna benefit what I already have going on. It's really hard to like dedicate time to that because I'm so locked in with what I have going on already. You know what I'm saying? And so just having that freedom, man, to like make your own decisions and do things like that is a definitely a big pro to me too as far as being an entrepreneur.
And I'll add to that a little bit, because again, it's that freedom aspect, and you have to be ready for freedom, because again, you have the
Yes.
freedom to do whatever you want, but you have the freedom to do whatever you want, and that's scary. That's a lot of options to have
Right.
for you to
Right.
say, I'm not going to be dialed in or dedicated, because
Right.
freedom is a double-edged sword.
Right.
It
Right.
is.
I got a love hate relationship now with entrepreneurship, especially being 3+ years in now. Like literally living and surviving off my own grit and will. Um, I think it's overrated to an extent. Social media has like kind of painted a picture of what it should look like. And that's why I appreciate guys like Gary Vaynerchuk just reminding us like that's not what entrepreneurship necessarily has to look like. It doesn't have to look like a big ass mansion or or a nice car. Like, I stopped wearing jewelry and earrings and designer clothes because I realized none of that was necessarily auspicious towards me getting to where I ultimately said I wanted to be. And so, like Jamar said, I feel like, we don't talk about how, how those months where you don't get paid can be so damn gut wrenching. You start to question everything. You question your own existence. You question your purpose. You question what everything, like everything is in question. And like Jamar said, if you didn't know yourself before, oh, you about to damn sure learn some things now. And that was the part that really, really hooked me in. Now I know I said, what the cons was, but some of the pros was you get to know yourself. That's an even bigger superpower because every time I left the 9 to 5 and I came, and I had time to myself to be able to wake up when I feel like it, feed my soul with the things I want to feed my soul with, read the books I want to read, learn what's necessary. I've always felt like I've literally was inside of a cocoon and came out a butterfly again. And but this is when it comes to entrepreneurship, this is a process where you can repeat it over and over. You can continue to grow. You can witness yourself get better, kind of like a LeBron James in the gym working on that jump shot. You feel yourself getting better. And if you guys go back and look at my very first business, it was called remarketing, RE marketing. I tried to start a marketing firm, and then I tried to do life coaching, and then I tried to do fitness advising. And none of that stuff worked out for me. Like that shit, it was a dead end ultimately. So what I learned from those journeys though is the things I was doing wrong, and I was able to literally directly apply what I did wrong from those businesses and apply it to our current business, which is Rock Bros Media. And Rock Bros Media can fail. It literally can fail. 90% of small businesses go out of business after the first decade. We're not exempt from that. But what we're doing right here and even building a podcast is another pro to being an entrepreneur. I don't have to ask the boss, hey boss, you think if we start doing it this way, maybe we could get this result? No, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and implement that fucking change right away and see directly how it impacts us in real time. So last week we had no podcast. This week we have a podcast. We're going to be running it every Monday. We're going to have different guests, and this is what this is what the fuck it is till we get the fuck up out of here. Because we're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for our children, and that's at the end of the day.
And I think another good thing, man, is how when people think about entrepreneurship, again, you said that the social media effect, that's what I like to call it. This is social media effect. Everybody's got the filters, everybody's got filters, everybody's got the, it looks good. Here's the glitz and the glam. And then you get to the ugly and you're like, oh, this is ugly right now. Like I didn't know it actually looked like this behind the camera. And I think a lot of people forget the camera is a stage, People don't get on camera if they don't believe that they look good. People don't get on camera if they don't believe they have something that they can really say that might resonate,
Right.
And then I follow the words of Jim Rohn, and he said, if you, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, if you think this is risky, if you think doing something is risky, wait till you get the bill for not doing something. Everything in life is risky. So my big thing in life is, you only here once, we're here one time and then that's it. And you're not making it out alive. I promise you. So why not do everything now? Why not do everything now? This is your chance to do something. So I think my love with entrepreneurship is that one, I took that risk. I took the risk to bet on myself, and there's no bigger bet than you can have on yourself. And you also brought something up, Cordell. You said, you love getting that check and saying it came from my work. This is my grit. This is what I did, and that truly feels good because when you look around and you say nobody helped me get this. Or when you get that check that's more than what you made in 80 hours from your last job, you say, you know what? Maybe I can keep going. Maybe if I can do this once and I can do this twice and I can do this 3 times, there's no reason I can't do it 100 times, 200 times, 300 times. So
Bro,
it's just it's that experience.
And that's nothing too, man.
It's the only way I can describe this feeling of getting paid off your own wit and grit. It's a free song, right? It's a feeling of excitement that just runs through your body like before you dip on a roller coaster. That's what they call a frisson. That's what it's like receiving when a client is willing to pay you $3,000 for 1 hour, but your job is telling you, yeah, we'll give you give you $20 for this overtime, 25.
Mhm.
So you're like, wait a minute, let me do the math. If I could do that once, what type of work do I need to put in so I can do that 100 more times? You know what I mean?
And that's another thing too, man. Is I feel like people you value it different if you work hard for it. You know what I'm saying? And like for example, like during the pandemic, we had all these scammers and people that was running it up, and they literally have absolutely pretty much zero to show for it now here in 2023, and it's not because they didn't work for none of that money, so it was easy to just fuck it all, blow it, do whatever I'm gonna do with it, buy cards, buy this, buy that. And versus, I feel like if they actually worked for that amount of money, then they would have valued it a lot different. And so it's just all about, yeah, man, like how you work for something. Like if you work hard for it, then you value it different. And because I know I ain't just spent 80 hours in the motherfucking shop cutting up, bro, to just go and just blow this shit on strippers all day and just to wake up and work hard again so I can go do that again. Absolutely
Mhm.
fucking not.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna value this, particular like lump sum of money that I actually had like worked hard for, and like now I'm invested and like pretty much put it back into myself as far as to like keep that train going.
And I'll also add one more thing, man. I believe that people have the wrong idea about 9 to 5s in the first place anyway. I believe your 9 to 5 is supposed to be, if you want to start up a business, your 9 to 5 is it's
That's
still a process of your business.
yeah.
So people think a business starts after, oh, went on YouTube, they told me to get an LLC. Oh, now I got a website, got one customer, I'm a business. That's when it started. No, your business started when you first had that first idea of it and you said, okay, in a month, I'm going to try to do this one thing. And that 1 month, you use your 9 to 5 to fund whatever you have for your business. You use your 9 to 5 to find those skills. A very adroit person would say, all right, I want to start a technology business. So every 9 to 5 I have is going to be in technology, me learning something, me going in my job to learn something. And that was kind of a big thing for me because I don't go to work and say, okay, this is just work. I go to work for a goal. You're paying me for my goal. That's how I look at my job. You're paying me not to do this work for you. You're paying me to learn a new skill because I am. You're paying me to fund my dreams. You're paying me to build up the 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 habits that I need because a good employee is also a good entrepreneur because you're building up that what do I want to call it? That's scheduled for me. I have to wake up at 9. I have to leave at 6. I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. And then when you switch it over to entrepreneurship, if you keep that same mentality, okay, I still have to wake up at 9. I have to do, but now what you have to do in that time frame changes. Now I don't need to go and fix a computer at my job. Now I need to learn how to fix a computer here. I need to find somebody whose computer needs to be fixed. So I have to do things like that. Your 9 to 5 is a tool along with everything else in life. And I think people who wake up and they hate their job and they don't really want to get up and go, you don't hate the job. Your job is just not getting you to a goal that you want to reach.
Mm. And like just to piggyback off that, Jamar, bro, I'm pretty sure we are, I'm pretty sure that we all heard that song, the Stretch Money song. It takes money to make money. That
Mhm.
saying crazy right there because, like you said, the only way that I'm gonna make money besides 9 to 5 job is sell drugs, and I ain't trying to sell drugs, so I'm gonna get a 9 to 5 job. But with that being said, I just like you said, is I want to utilize that 9 to 5 as a stepping stone to fund your own business. So that way now I don't have to get up and come here anymore. I'm getting up and I'm going to my own business now. And with me, like even me, I am my own boss. However, I do also have a 9 to 5 job on the side as well. Why you ask? Because now with that particular 9 to 5 job, I'm no longer working there. I'm
Mm.
networking there. I'm networking for my business there now. And so I feel like if you have a small business, it is important to still maybe have a 9 to 5 job on the side where you work 1, maybe 2 days out the week to, still network for your personal business and like some of the things that you have going on outside of the 9 to 5 job, because with the 9 to 5 job, that's an opportunity to meet new people. You're not going to meet new people often at your 9 to 5. I mean, currently being at your business. And so like if you go venture out, into other businesses and 9 to 5, then that's how you meet more people. And so, with that being said, yeah, but just network for your own business, man.
And sorry, Cordell, if you wanted to go, but I had one more thing. I had to piggyback off that again, because that was a very strong point that you made. Because I still have a temporary 9 to 5, but you hit it right on the nail. You say, use it maybe once or twice a day. I used to have to go to work 5 days a week. 5 days a week to work for somebody else, paying
Right.
somebody's 100% interest on their rent. You know what I mean? And now I'm able to say, okay, I get to choose when I work. Now it's a different aspect when I go to work. It's not me going to work and my boss got on my nerve, I can't leave. Now I'm like, hey, if you have to let me go, you got to let me go, because I have my own business. And you'll feel a lot better when you go somewhere and they have things that you don't need now instead that you want. That's a huge difference between, I have to get this. If I don't make this check, I am done. Like, I'm not going to be able to do anything. When you say, oh, I have a business check coming in next week, it's completely fine. And then you get the work check on top of it. And people really look down on that for some reason. But I'm like, you have multiple streams of income now. You know how fulfilling it is to say, oh, I don't really have to struggle next week because I forgot I got this check. Or an even better feeling is when you forget you have a check coming,
Right.
and then you just wake up with extra money and you're like, oh my God, I did do that, didn't I? Right. Nobody ever got upset to have extra money in their account. I've never met one person in my life that got mad at that.
Right.
Yeah, I ain't think about that. Because like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to the whole entrepreneur thing, it can be gut wrenching. But 9 to 5s, what they do is, I was talking to my buddy today. He's working 7 days a week now, 12 hours a day, and he said it's killing him. And this guy's a fucking go-getter. Like, if he had time on his hands, he'd be after it, like figuring something out, improving his process, improving the business. But now he's back in the dirt, trying to grind it up. And he like, look, I'm working 7 days a week. It's killing me. When I get off work, I don't even want to think about my business barely. The shit that would take me 2 hours to do is starting to take me 2 weeks to do. I'm gaining weight because I'm eating too good and shit. Like, when you at work, you want to eat some decent food to not feel so bad about being at work. And more importantly, when you got that check coming again next week or in 2 weeks, it's easier to spend the money on food. Like, a lot of people, a good portion of most people's expenses go towards food. But yeah, for me, like, you have to make a decision, right? So they say it can't be pains without gain. So with the whole 9 to 5 thing, you actually get to keep that peace of mind on the day-to-day, that you know exactly how you're gonna eat tomorrow. But being out here for 3 years, I've sacrificed a lot of that peace of mind. So really, on a day-to-day, it's a lot of like chaos in my brain. There's a lot of chaos. But what I learned how to do is embrace that chaos, channel it, and operate inside of it. As a business owner, you're gonna have to learn how to do that any fucking way. You're gonna be constantly putting out fires and solving different problems. So you got to learn how to get good at dealing with chaos. And this is also building up that mental muscle, because you're gonna be tried, and that muscle is gonna have to be worked. And in order for you to prevent committing suicide, that muscle is just gonna end up buff as fuck. It's just gonna be a strong fucking muscle. It's like, I've weathered this storm, you know what I'm saying? I'm still in it. I ain't gave up yet. And just on the fulfillment side, like, governments and politics, they like to try to separate us based off class, right? They tell us, oh, that's the lower class, that's the middle class, and that's the upper class. Well, I don't know what class y'all think y'all in, but there's millionaires who feel like they still in the middle class. And so there is no such thing as class. As a matter of fact, if it was, it would only be 2 classes. There would be the working class, and then there will be the capitalist class. So how do you make your money? That's what determines which class you're in. Like, are you going to work, or are you a boss of your own business and you still got to go to work every single day to make this money? Well, you're part of the working class. But are you sending other people to work? Are you using other people's intellectual willpower to make you money? Well, now you're part of the capitalist class. But by them creating this idea of class, they've been able to separate us. So when I pull up at the freeway and I come up off 94 and I see that guy with the sign, I'm like, man, I don't want to be him. But guess what? I'm already him. I'm him. I'm him. Him. You know what I mean? Like, we're on the same level, and now I'm actually more incentivized to work with these people and think of creative ways that I
But
can.
look,
But
Corey, just like one
go ahead.
key difference I feel like is different between you and the guy holding the sign though is your mindsets. Yeah, you might be in the same predicament as far as financially, right?
Just class. We're in the
But
same
you're
class.
but mentally you're not. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's what keeps you from actually being out there with the sign. You know, it's all about your mentality about things.
And earlier you mentioned that the people who had money during the pandemic, right, who didn't kind of earn that money, they were just given that fast money. You mentioned that most of them have nothing to show for it. I know a few of them that's actually homeless right now, believe it or not, that are seeing 40, 50 plus. I know some of them that have had over $100,000. Listen to what I'm telling y'all. 100,000 in their account, and they back out here door dashing. So
Man,
it's
I,
not
I
a joke.
gotta I
What's
gotta
up?
attribute that to something different though. So I believe there's a huge lack of financial literacy to begin with. So even having it, this it's a Dave Chappelle skit, man. I don't know, it pops up in my head every time I talk about something like this. But every black person had reparations, or they won a lottery or something like that, and then they showed them on the news saying, they're practically giving it back. You know what I mean? Like the things that people spend on.
Hmm.
And I don't believe that's attributed to if you've earned it or if you've just gotten it, because people have a capacity to go back to what they're used to. And you have to have that mental fortitude again to say, I'm not going back to that. But people have a capacity to go back to things that aren't good for them. They have a capacity to live their life comfortably, even if their comfort isn't optimal. So if you are somebody who, is used to spending, $10,000 a month, then you're going to spend $10,000 a month regardless of how much money you get. If you're a person who's used to having nothing in the bank, then you're going to spend money until you have nothing in the bank. That's just mental your mental capacity right now. So it's also very much a learning game. Again, we say entrepreneurship, you have to learn yourself, but you also have to be honest with yourself and say, okay, how do I spend? How do I buy? How do I make money? How much do I have now? Do I have a financial plan? Do I have an exit strategy? Anything like that. A lot of people just don't.
You're right about that, man. And like when it comes to money, man, it's like what is enough money for people, right? Like you can never have enough money, right? Quote unquote what they say, but I feel like the problem is that uh, we let the money, so we feel like that money is like happiness. And I know y'all heard the saying that money can't buy happiness. And in some situations it can, but only for a certain period of time, because as soon as that euphoric feeling goes away, you're gonna be like right back to square one. And so I feel like here in our society nowadays, we shouldn't necessarily focus on the money, man. Like we need to be focused on our happiness and like how happy we are mentally, to where money is not gonna really be a problem if you're already happy mentally. Like, if I'm already comfortable with the way that my life is now, who to say that, more money is gonna make me happier, because I'm already literally like happy like with my life. And so I feel like that should be our goals, man, too, going forward is how can I make enough money, to be happy, not how can I just make this money, as I make this problem go away, then I'll be happy. Like, no, it's like, how can I find something to do that makes me happy, but also I'm making money, with it as well, just because I'm so happy. And I feel like that's where, like your passion come in at, because like now with your passion, you would do it for free just because you love to do that particular thing so much. And now by people seeing how passionate you are about something, the money is gonna roll in. People are gonna give you their money just because they see how passionate, that you is about this. And I tell people all the time is that you want to become an expert at something. Why? Because people get paid for their expertise. And so during the whole pandemic, all the people that I seen on the news were doctors and scientists and shit like that, because they were the people who were needed during that time for their expertise. So they obviously had to be paid for their time too as well. And so, again, like you want to find something and become an expert. And once you become an expert, you get paid for your expertise.
Get high test scores, right?
That's what and I actually had that talk with Money Can't Buy Happiness with somebody today. So that's actually funny you brought it
Wow.
up, because it's something that, again, that we were all taught, but we don't know that we don't remember that money is just a tool. It's a tool to get something. It's a piece of paper backed by nothing. It's a tool. So I had a conversation with my brothers years and years and years ago about, pretty much the art of trade, because that's all we do with money is we trade. So I
Right.
say, well, think about it like this. Say, for instance, I have meat, you have rice, right? And I'm the only person that, and my other brother has vegetables, right? So I come to you and I say, hey, you know, I'll give you some of this meat if you give me some of your vegetables. I'll give you some of his rice if you give me some of his vegetables and things like that. It's just a trading system. It's a tool, and what you trade for your money is really a big thing too. Are you trading time for your money? Are you trading your sanity for your money? Are you trading your health for the money?
Ooh.
So money is, again, it's a tool on its own by itself in the middle of the desert. You can have $1 billion, but what's the point if you can't spend it? You know. So, and
Correct.
the money buys happiness thing, I personally believe that's a struggle mentality in itself. Money
Right.
buys happiness. If I had this
Right.
money, I could do this. If I had this money, I could do that. But I asked somebody, well, okay, if you had $100,000, what would you do with it? And this is my favorite thing to ask people sometimes, because they give the same
That's the
common
best way to
answer.
get to know somebody. It's the best way to get to know them.
And they give me the same common answer. They say, I would pay off my debts and I would invest it and make more money. Absolutely. I love it. I love that you said that because I study these things. What would you invest in? Oh, I would go and buy a house and buy some stocks. Okay. How much of a house would you buy? Right? How much could you actually afford to buy? Have you ever looked at that? So you really don't know. Okay. You will go into stocks. Can you tell me about options trading? Can you tell me which stocks you would buy? No, they can't. So I'm like, you don't have your goals align with what you're saying, and that's never going to work out for you, you know
And
because if
that's
somebody asks me the same question, I have a pen. I know what to do. I know how to keep it going. I know where to put the money. I know where to keep the money, because it's a tool. I only use money to buy things that I need for myself and my family so that we can be happy at the end. you know Money
and
is the means to the end. It's not the goal.
right, because I've actually talked to millionaires, bro, and one key thing I learned about millionaires is they have problems too. They stress the fuck out too. Actually, I know y'all heard the saying, "More money, more
More
problems."
money, more
like,
problems, man.
you know what I'm saying? Because like now you have to worry about a, a whole number of different things that you didn't even know that that existed, like people stealing from you, people only being around you because you have money. Just like those two things alone is terrifying. Just having money, and so I learned that yeah, like even millionaires they still struggle, but they have problems. Some millionaires don't even have friends, bro, because they're so arrogant and they bitter or like where the fuck the case may be, and so that's when I realized that money is not the end all be all. Like exactly how you said, it's like it's more so of
Car,
a tool to get to where you want to go.
And you know how
car.
they say money can't buy you happiness? Everybody want to find out for their damn self. Like,
Right,
I know y'all said that, but let me find out though. Give me the money. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do with it, right? And like
right,
Jamar said, you ask them, well, how would you allocate it?
right,
They don't have a fucking clue because they never actually gave any thought to it. Like, how you gonna
right,
cook up a recipe, make apple pie? You never looked up an apple pie recipe a day in your life.
Oh,
You just
yeah.
figure it all out and throw it together and hope that it stick, right? So
hmm
like I think it's easier when you think about money in terms of just like energy, right? Just think of it in terms of energy. Um and when you think of it in terms of energy, right? Like when you go like Mar said, you go sell your sanity for it, your dignity for it, your reputation for it, all of this shit we give up for it. You're just trying to convert energy, right, into a medium. And so, like he said, during the barter days where we lived in smaller communities, and I had a particular skill, and Johnny down the street got a particular skill, and now we can trade in between ourselves, amongst ourselves, with our skill sets. But what happened when brother man can make purified water? However, he's miles and miles and miles down the road. Well, as trade got further out, we needed an intermediary. We needed an object that we could park the value into because it's like these apples ain't gonna work. I can make these apples, but if I got to carry them across Egypt, they might not make it. They might rot out. So I need an instrument. I need a medium that I could put that value of energy inside of, and then transport that safely to that person without it deteriorating over time. So I just disagree when you say money is paper that's backed by nothing. Money is whatever enough people believe it is. In 1634, over in Holland, Europe, they experienced a time called Tulip Mania. It lasted for about 2 to 3 years. But during Tulip Mania, these people were literally spending their life savings on tulips because they felt like it came from the Garden of Constantinople. It's known as Istanbul now. But these people were taking out loans and selling their houses to get tulips. And a few years later, the market was flooded with them. It was tulips appearing all over the world. They had this ideology. It was a speculative investment asset that was worth investing into. And for some people, they would use it as currency. So if I give you one viceroy, I think that was the strain of the major tulips. You would give me 8 fat horses. You would give me 6 pigs. You would give me a brand new buggy. It was a lot I got for giving you one bulb, right? And so money can be anything enough people believe it is at the time. It just became easier to just decide, like, let's just use the paper because I can travel with this shit across distances. And more importantly, if I'm a bank, I can just make more of it when I feel like it.
It, so you just said two things, man, and that's kind of why I said money was backed by nothing. So the first thing that you said was that people spent all their money to get these tulips instead of keeping the money.
Or they
What
value, like
they kept the
houses and
tulips,
stuff. Yeah.
right, to trade the tulips for other things. So now the tulips have become the currency. That's become the money, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then you said, if we ever run out of money, the bank could just print more money, right? So
Hmm.
Cordell, I know you, man, and you are the Bitcoin advocate, right? So which is backed by something, which is something people believe in. But I think that the whole concept that we have of the paper dollars, the yen, things like that, we've lost touch of what it really is, and we've given it more value than what it really has.
There you go. There you go. There you go. We forgot it was just a message at the end of the
Mhm.
day.
We got
Hey,
it's a promissory note.
this is how much I'm really worth.
Yeah.
That's what it was supposed to represent until we introduced like credit. But the reason why I think all of this is important, you guys, is because part of what we want to do at Rock Bros Media is, man, look, what do we have if we're not empowering, the people on the lower class, like economically, and we're not teaching them about what finance really means? You know what I mean? Like, most people that I know, they can't even tell you what money is. There are actually billionaires who didn't know what money was until the year 2020 came. Like, how surprising is that? Actual billionaires who did not know what money, or didn't even think twice about it, just knew how to generate US dollars and live a good life, but didn't seriously think about it until they watched the Feds print 40% more dollars and inject that into the economy. And we watched our bacon go from $3 to $9. We watched the gas go from $1 to $4 now. So either way, we got to pay for it. And that's one thing I'm so big on, is figuring out how can we educate the lower class or the people in our communities on what or what, like, the transaction of value actually is. Like, real estate. This is another reason why, like, if you think of money as energy, real estate has always, throughout time, land and real estate has been a great place to park value and trust that in 50 years or 100 years, this value could potentially still be here, given if the building is, indestructible or some shit. But it's always been a great way. So if you bought a house 100 years ago and you just sat on that house, literally wait 100 years, your grandkids picked it up, the investment would be up over 350%. But if you would have buried $1 million in the backyard, you would have had like $30,000 worth of purchasing power today, literally, because you wouldn't have buried $1 million. You would have buried $70,000, because 100 years ago, $70,000 was the equivalent to what $1 million is today. So you would have lost so much of your purchasing power. So you were more incentivized to actually buy the house or park this into some sort of medium because energy has to manifest itself into something physical. So maybe I might buy this painting or maybe I might buy this plot of land. I need it to be somewhere physical that I can, say I own.
Then too, I feel like, man, something that's that's very important. And just to answer the question that's on the screen, in my opinion, is what creates the at the empowerment for the lower class. Well, first of all, I feel like it all start with our bigger like influencers, right? Because a lot of the lower class people, they are influenced by something or by someone. And I feel like if the major like influencers was to set a better example for financial literacy, then our lower class would kind of follow suit in that particular way. But I feel like the higher class or the people that's like just like pulling all the strings, they are telling they have like the major like influencers just like influencing in a way to where the lower class is going to stay in the lower class as well. They don't want you to get in the higher class. They want us to stay in the lower class. And so I feel like it's up to the people, man, to want to, do better and to want to learn certain things, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of our people, they're stuck in their mindsets of, just being in the lower class, man. And like they have this image of, oh, if I buy Gucci or buy Louis or buy these particular brands, that now I'm part of the higher class. And absolutely the answer to that is like you're wrong, like you're wrong about that particular thought process because that don't make you what's in the higher class. Because Bill Gates, he don't wear Gucci and Louis, and he's fucking Bill Gates. And that just goes to show you right there that doesn't make you, in the higher class, man. So it just start with the people and not the influencers, man. In my opinion.
What's your thoughts on that, more?
So I would say one, I personally don't believe it's the influencers. I believe it's the people who are influenced to an extent. And I mean that because you choose who you're influenced by at a certain point. You know, it's hard to, it's something again that you have to know within yourself. But after a certain point, you got to say, well, is this what I really need to be listening to get to where I want to go? Is this really what I need or I want? Uh, but I also believe it's the biggest thing is knowing, again, financial literacy, but understanding the difference between price and value. I think that's a giant thing for a lot of people because people see the price of something and they automatically, have an opinion of its worth. The price is the price. That's what it is. The value of it is completely different. If I have a water bottle and it's $100, then you would probably say absolutely not because you think the value isn't worth $100. Now, if you're, you know, dying of dehydration, and you have $100, that $100 is probably what you're going to use to buy that water bottle, right? You're going to say, okay, the value of it has now increased to where the price makes sense. And I think a lot of people buy things where the price just exceeds the value. There's no resale value. There's nothing else you can use it for. It won't really give you as much utility as you imagine it would. So things like that. Like I'll use the example of shoes, for instance. Some people love shoes. No, that's their thing. So a shoe's value is worth more to them than it would be like someone like me who I don't buy shoes. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so the price doesn't match for me because I don't value it as much as you do. If you value it and this is your thing and this is something you love, then you're gonna say, no, this is worth it for me. And I think a lot of people just they go out of their way and they buy things that they know they don't value or won't value, and they hold on to it and hoping that there will be more value in it when it really won't be.
But the thing you said, and I know we only got a few minutes left for you guys, so we get ready to wrap up. But the thing you said is that you felt like the influencers weren't necessarily responsible. But if we know how influenceable the mass really is, then how big is their role in this thing overall? Like I know, there's individual choices, but I feel like, if somebody like LeBron James was to be like, hey, my shoes don't really have this much value. I shouldn't be charging $250. I'll charge what they actually worth. he wouldn't make any money, obviously, right? So him teaching like even the kids at his school the difference, like you said, between price and value, because I used to think it was just strictly supply and demand. If there's a limited supply but an even bigger demand, now a price get created. But I could have a bottle of my own feces and be like, look, it's the only bottle of my feces that exists. Come get it. They like, ain't no demand for that shit. I want that shit. Who are you? Now, if you Drake, maybe that bottle is worth a little bit more. But
That's a terrible
you
bottle,
can't
bro.
just assign value to something because you say it has value. It's about how much demand is it for this thing.
Well, again, it's your value, and with the influencers, uh, again, you have to. There has to be a certain level of personal responsibility when it comes to certain things like this, because at the end of the day, you can watch a million influencers, but their life is not going to affect your life, and your life is not going to affect theirs, right? So you have to be honest with yourself. It's okay to be influenced by things you want to be influenced by. If I want to be an entrepreneur and I only watch entrepreneur videos, I'm still being influenced by these guys. I'm just being influenced in the right way and towards my goal.
Mm.
Now if I'm uh listening to country artists, I'm like, I don't want to be a manager for a country artist. And they say, well, this is how you manage a country artist. He's influencing you, he's educating you. But I'm like, this is nothing to do with my goals. So I'm being misinfluenced right now. Like,
Mhm.
this is the wrong setting for me to be in, even in the first place. And I think if you're in, I wouldn't say lower class, I'll say if you are not where you want to be, then you're probably being led by the wrong people or the wrong ideal or the
Right.
wrong thought process.
Wow. Man, that's powerful, brother. I appreciate you, man. And look, our hour is up pretty fast, man. But this was a great discussion. I don't want to oversaturate it, so I do want to go ahead and get ready to wrap up here. But I just want to ask, man, is it anything that you want to like leave the people with? Anything from mindset, motivation? What are you working on to improve the world? What you got for us, bro?
Yeah, man. I think the biggest takeaway that people could take from this is to truly learn yourself first and foremost, and then you'll accurately assess yourself to see where you are, where you want to be, and how far you can go past that. The other big thing is that reality. There is no such thing as reality. If you can dream as high as you possibly want to dream. There's nothing that can stop you at all besides yourself. The only thing in my thoughts that can stop me is me telling my thoughts to stop. You know. So if you feel like you have a talent or a skill, or if you want to be an entrepreneur, take the leap, because it's either you take the leap or that's it. Like, you won't have another chance, because again, nobody's making out of here alive. So why not do everything now?
Yes,
You got
sir.
anything to add to that, car?
Nah, man, but I think Jamar pretty much just hit everything right on the nose, man. Like dream big. If like somebody don't tell you, that sound crazy, then that means you ain't dreaming big enough, man. So you definitely, yeah, bro, just always believe in yourself, stay consistent with whatever you got going on, man, and yeah, man, just keep going.
I think we all need to, anybody listening to this too, the main thing you need to do or figure out how to do is how to guard your time and focus your energy. Because in life, you're only given a wallet of minutes and a wallet of money. The minutes can't be put back, the money can be put back. So, like, being born is literally a dive into oblivion. You're born into a world with infinite possibilities in a limited amount of time. So, the more you guard your time, and I'm talking family, friends, um, spouse to an extent, but if you're working a 9 to 5, but you're looking forward to Fridays or the weekend to have a good time, you're missing the entire point, because that's your time. And what are you doing with that time to make that side hustle your main hustle? And I just think that's the main thing. But hey, Jamar, I appreciate you for joining us, brother. We're gonna definitely do this again.
Thank you, bro.
Y'all
Yep.
watching, make sure y'all go follow Jamar. Instagram, LinkedIn. You on TikTok, right?
Nah, not on TikTok, man. I got the Instagram, Jamar AV underscore, I believe, and then just Facebook, Realtor Jamar Averitte. And then I guess the very last thing I want to say is die with a story to tell.
There we go.
I with a story to tell. Live a life that's so captivating that every time your grandchildren talk about it to their friends, it just drops their jaws.
Mhm.
All right,
All right,
fellas.
I'll
I'm
see
gonna
you
go ahead
guys,
and end
man.
the broadcast, man.
Third.
Peace.